3 weeks before my wedding, my father handed me a DNA test kit like it was a wedding gift. We were standing in my parents' kitchen in Scottsdale, Arizona. My mother was at the sink, washing a glass that was already clean. My older brother stood beside the refrigerator, looking anywhere except at me. My fiancé, Adrian, stood next to me, silent and furious. And my father, Graham Whitlock, placed the white box on the kitchen island and said, "Before I walk you down the aisle, we are settling the truth." I looked at the box, then at him. The truth about what? His mouth tightened. The truth about you. My mother dropped the glass into the sink. It did not break. I almost wished it had. At least then, someone else in that room would have made a sound. For 29 years, my father had looked at my red hair, my gray-blue eyes, and the shape of my face like they were evidence from a crime scene. He had called me difficult. Different. Not quite Whitlock. He had accused my mother of things she never did. He had treated my brother like proof, and me like suspicion. But that afternoon, 3 weeks before my wedding, he finally said the quiet part out loud. "I would rather leave the father's place empty," he said, "than walk a child of an affair down the aisle." My name is Audrey Whitlock. The Whitlock family was known for money, discipline, and my father's obsession with legacy. Graham Whitlock owned a regional construction supply company and sat on charity boards where people praised his family values. My mother, Lucia, had spent almost 30 years becoming quieter beside him. She had once been funny and warm. My grandmother June told me that. By the time I was old enough to remember, my mother apologized before asking for anything. She looked at my father's face before deciding if a room was safe. And I knew, even as a child, that I was part of the reason. My father had dark hair, brown eyes, and a strong jaw. My mother had dark hair too, with deep brown eyes. My brother Ellis looked like a younger version of my father. Then there was me. Red hair, gray-blue eyes, pale skin, freckles across my nose. People called me striking when they wanted to be polite. My father called me a question. Not directly. He was too polished for that. But I heard it in the way he asked my mother where she had been in 1995. The way he said "old friend." The way he went quiet whenever someone mentioned recessive genes. At family dinners, he would stare at my hair. My mother would shrink. My brother would change the subject. And I would sit there, trying to understand how a child could be guilty of being born with the wrong colors. The favoritism was never subtle. Ellis got private tutoring when he struggled in math. I got told to figure it out because independence builds character. Ellis got college fully paid. I worked part-time, took loans, and stretched scholarship money until it hurt. Ellis wrecked a car at 20 and received a replacement because my father said young men make mistakes. I asked for help with a forensic accounting certification and was told adulthood requires investment. My father said Ellis carried the Whitlock name. I carried doubt. That was not how he phrased it. He said I needed resilience. He said I needed humility. He said I should be grateful I had been raised under his roof. Under his roof. Not as his daughter. As if I had been housed, managed, tolerated. My mother tried to compensate in quiet ways. Books left on my bed. Extra blankets. Soft notes in my lunch when I was younger. But she never confronted him. Fear had trained her too well. The DNA ultimatum came after weeks of wedding tension. My father had offered to pay for part of the wedding. Then he reminded me of it every time I made a choice he disliked. He wanted the rehearsal dinner at a private club. I wanted Sedona, where the red rocks glowed at sunset and my mother could breathe away from Scottsdale society. He wanted Ellis to give a speech. I wanted my grandmother June. He wanted to approve the guest list. I wanted peace. Then he called and asked Adrian and me to come over. The DNA kit was already on the counter. A private paternity test. Expedited results. Paid in full. My father did not look ashamed. Men like Graham Whitlock do not feel shame when they believe cruelty is evidence of standards. He said, "If I am expected to play the role of father publicly, I am entitled to certainty privately." My mother whispered, "Graham, please." He turned on her. 29 years, Lucia, 29 years of questions. She put one hand against the counter. "I told you the truth. You told me a story." I looked at my mother. For the first time, I saw not just sadness. I saw exhaustion so old it had become part of her posture. I picked up the DNA kit. "Fine," I said. "But when the results come back, you do not get to pretend this was normal." The test should have taken 10 days. It took 7. 7 days is not long unless your entire childhood is waiting in the mailbox. My father became almost cheerful. He thought he was approaching vindication. He told Ellis they could all finally stop pretending. Stop pretending. As if my mother had built the prison. As if I had chosen the lock. The results arrived on a Friday morning. My father insisted we open them together that evening. He said it was a family matter. I agreed, but only because Adrian and Grandma June would be there. We gathered in the living room. The same room where family portraits hung in heavy frames. Ellis above the fireplace in his graduation robe. My parents at charity events. One photo of me at 16, standing at the edge of the family like a guest who had wandered into the wrong picture. My father opened the envelope slowly. Theater mattered to him. He looked first. Triumph did not appear. Confusion did. Then irritation. Then fear. "What does it say?" I asked. He did not answer. Grandma June stood up. "Graham." He handed the paper to Ellis, as if another man might translate reality into something more obedient. Ellis read it. His face went pale. I took the report from him. The first line said Graham Whitlock was not my biological father. My father made a sound. Half laugh, half accusation. "I knew it." But then I read the second section. Lucia Whitlock was not my biological mother. The room stopped. I read it again because the mind rejects impossible sentences at first. 0% maternal relationship. 0% paternal relationship. I was not biologically related to either of them. My mother did not collapse. She stood completely still, and her face emptied. My father whispered, "That's not possible." Grandma June said, "Desert Valley." Everyone turned to her. Her face had gone white. "The night she was born," she said. "The storm." I had heard the birth story before, but only the polished version. Desert Valley Medical Center. A monsoon storm. Power problems. A difficult birth. A miracle baby. That night, June told the unpolished version. The power had not flickered. It had failed. Generators came on late. Alarms sounded. Nurses rushed between rooms with flashlights. Several newborns were moved temporarily because part of the maternity wing lost climate control. My mother remembered the time of birth as 12:31. The certificate said 12:18. 13 minutes. A small gap. A clerical mistake, they had been told. June had argued at the time because she remembered looking at the clock after my mother cried. "Is she okay?" The nurse said the baby was born at 12:31. Later, the paperwork said 12:18. No one listened. My father had not cared then. He cared later, when my hair came in red. For 29 years, he built an accusation on my face. But the DNA report did not accuse my mother. It accused the hospital. I looked at my father. "You tortured her for nothing." He stared at the paper. My mother made one broken sound. Then she walked out of the room. For once, no one stopped her. The investigation began that night. Mine. I went home with Adrian, spread copies of the report across the dining table, and opened my laptop. Forensic accounting teaches you that institutions leave trails when they make mistakes. Hospitals document. Bill. Code. Archive. Transfer. Insure. Settle. Hide. I requested my birth records. My mother requested hers. Grandma June wrote a statement about the storm and the time discrepancy. Adrian, a civil litigation attorney, helped me draft records requests without making them sound like panic. Desert Valley Medical Center had merged twice since 1995. Its records department gave polite delays. We are searching archives. Some paper files may be incomplete. Please allow additional time. I understood delays. Delays are where liability goes to breathe. Meanwhile, I tested again. A full ancestry and genetic matching profile. If I was not a Whitlock by blood, then someone else was. Somewhere, another woman had grown up with my family's DNA. Maybe loved. Maybe not. Maybe wondering why she looked unlike her parents. Maybe never wondering at all. The thought made me feel sick. Not because I wanted to be replaced. Because suddenly, I understood there were two stolen stories. Mine and hers. Grandma June remembered one name. Helen Voss, a nurse from Desert Valley. She had kind eyes, June said. She came in after the power came back. She looked frightened. Finding Helen took 9 days. She was retired, living outside Flagstaff, and careful about answering unknown calls. I sent a letter first. Not threatening. Specific. My name is Audrey Whitlock. I was born at Desert Valley Medical Center during the monsoon outage in 1995. A recent DNA test shows I am not biologically related to either parent listed on my birth certificate. My grandmother remembers you were present that night. She called me 2 days later. Her voice shook. I wondered if this day would come. Helen agreed to meet in a quiet cafe. She was 72, with silver hair, thin hands, and a face that looked like guilt had lived there for a long time. She said, there were 2 baby girls. One was mine. One belonged to a young woman named Elena Morales from Tucson. During the outage, babies were moved to a temporary nursery. A trainee removed identification bracelets during a cleaning and warming transfer. 2 bracelets, 2 bassinets, 2 crying newborn girls. When the mistake was noticed before dawn, Helen reported it. Administration told staff the matter had been reviewed and resolved. It had not. They said correcting it would destroy families. Helen whispered. What they meant was it would destroy the hospital. The genetic match came through 4 days later. Maya Morales. Predicted close family. Possible parent-child or sibling-level match depending on available data. She was 29. A pediatric speech therapist in Tucson. Dark hair. Brown eyes. Sharp jaw. A face that looked so much like Ellis and my father that I stared at her profile photo until Adrian gently closed my laptop. Audrey! She looks like them. Yes. I expected jealousy. It came, but not first. First came grief. For a life she did not know she had lost. For a mother who had raised me while her biological daughter grew elsewhere. For Elena Morales, who had taken home a red-haired baby and loved her enough that Maya had apparently never needed to ask why she looked different. I messaged her carefully. Maya, my name is Audrey Whitlock. I know this will sound impossible, but I believe we may have been switched at birth at Desert Valley Medical Center in 1995. I have DNA results, hospital concerns, and a retired nurse willing to speak. I'm sorry to contact you this way. She replied the next morning. I knew something was wrong when I got the match. Can we talk? Maya was calm in the way people are calm when their training involves helping frightened children speak. We met over video first. For several seconds, neither of us said anything. I saw my father's jaw, my brother's eyes, my own terror reflected in someone who should have been a stranger. She said, "You have my mother's hair." I laughed and cried at the same time. Maya's mother, Elena Morales, joined the call later. She had red hair faded with age, gray-blue eyes, and hands that kept pressing to her mouth when she saw me. "Oh my God," she whispered. "You look like my sister." Lucia, my mother, was not ready for the first call. But she asked to see a photo. When I showed her Maya, she sat down hard. "That's Graham's face," she said. Not with longing, with devastation. Because in one instant, she saw the daughter he would have believed and the daughter he had punished. We arranged independent DNA confirmation. The results were clear. Maya was the biological daughter of Graham and Lucia Whitlock. I was the biological daughter of Elena Morales. Both mothers had raised the wrong babies. Only one father had turned that wrongness into cruelty. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be intimate. 60 guests at a Sedona restaurant overlooking the rocks. Warm lights. Long tables. Family speeches. A soft beginning to my wedding weekend. My father still expected to attend. That may sound unbelievable. It was not. Men like Graham do not disappear when proven wrong. They reposition. After the DNA results, he had not apologized. Not really. He said things like, "This is a complicated shock for everyone." He said, "We were all victims of a medical error." He said, "Had I known the facts, things would have been different." I said, "You did not need facts to be kind." He did not like that. He wanted the father's place restored now that the affair accusation had collapsed. He wanted to walk me down the aisle as if 29 years of suspicion could be folded and placed behind the floral arrangements. I told him no. He said I was being emotional. I said, "Correct." Then I invited Maya, Elena Morales, and Helen Voss to the rehearsal dinner. Not as revenge guests. As truth. When my father saw them enter, he understood before anyone spoke. Maya stood beside Elena Morales. Helen held a folder to her chest. My mother Lucia sat beside Grandma June, hands clasped tightly. Ellis looked like he wanted to leave. Adrian squeezed my hand. I stood at the front of the room. No microphone. I did not need one. For most of my life, I said, my mother was accused of betraying this family because I did not look like my father. The room went silent. My father's face darkened. "Audrey, this is not appropriate." I looked at him. Neither was handing me a DNA test 3 weeks before my wedding. No one moved. I continued. The test showed Graham Whitlock is not my biological father. It also showed Lucia Whitlock is not my biological mother. That means the accusation against my mother was false. Lucia began crying. Not quietly this time. Openly. I turned toward the guests. In 1995, during a power outage at Desert Valley Medical Center, 2 newborn girls were switched. I was one of them. Maya Morales was the other. Maya stepped forward. Gasps moved through the room. My father stared at her. For the first time in my life, I watched him recognize his own face in a daughter. And for the first time, it did not help him. Helen spoke next. Her voice shook, but she spoke. She described the outage. The temporary nursery. The identification bracelets removed and replaced wrong. The report to supervisors. The warning to stay silent. The decision to protect the hospital. Every sentence made the room colder. Elena Morales cried silently while holding Maya's hand. My mother looked at Helen with an expression I will never forget. Not hatred. Not forgiveness. A sorrow too large for both. Then Maya turned to my father. He had not taken his eyes off her. "You're my biological father," she said. His mouth opened. Maybe he expected wonder. Maybe obedience. Maybe the bloodline instinct he had worshipped would finally reward him. Maya said, "But I watched how you treated Audrey." He stiffened. "You do not understand our family history." "I understand enough." His face tightened. She was not mine. The room froze. Maya stepped back as if he had slapped her. Then she said, "And there it is." My mother stood. "Graham!" He looked around, realizing too late that the sentence had escaped without polish. Maya's voice was clear. "If blood is what matters to you, then listen carefully. I am your blood, and I want nothing from you." The next day, my mother walked me down the aisle. Not Graham. Not Ellis. Lucia Whitlock. The woman who had been doubted for 29 years and still loved me through the shadow of someone else's suspicion. She wore blue. Her hand trembled on my arm. At the aisle entrance, she whispered, "I am so sorry I was not braver." I whispered, "You are here now." That did not erase the past, but it honored the moment. When we reached Adrian, my mother kissed my cheek and did not apologize for crying. During the ceremony, I looked once at the empty chair where my father might have sat. It did not feel empty. It felt honest. Maya sat beside Elena Morales and Grandma June. Ellis came late and stood in the back. Graham did not come. I thought that would hurt more. Instead, I felt a strange relief. There are absences that wound you, and there are absences that finally stop lying. The legal case lasted almost 2 years. Desert Valley Medical Center no longer existed under that name, but liability has descendants. Records appeared slowly, some damaged, some incomplete, some suddenly discovered after subpoenas made memory more expensive. Helen testified. So did 2 former staff members who had remained silent because they were young, scared, and threatened. The hospital system issued a public apology. They changed newborn identification protocols. They created a compensation fund. They paid settlements to both families. No amount of money can purchase 29 years. But public truth matters. It says the harm happened. It says no one imagined it. It says institutions do not get to bury human beings under risk management. My father was required, through a private family agreement tied to the settlement negotiations, to pay off my student loans and cover the wedding costs he had once used as leverage. He also funded a counseling and legal support account for both affected families. He called it excessive. My mother called it a fraction. I called it paperwork doing what apologies could not. My mother separated from Graham 3 months after the wedding. She moved in with Grandma June for a while. The first week, she slept 12 hours a night. June said it was the first time her body believed it was safe. Graham posted a public apology after pressure from Lucia, board members, and business partners. It was stiff, controlled, full of phrases like pain caused and mistaken assumptions. But it existed. Then he resigned from 2 charity boards. One asked him privately. One did not give him the option. Business partners became cautious. People who had admired his family values began asking what those values looked like at home. He hated that most of all. Not losing me. Not losing Lucia. Being seen. Ellis struggled too. For years, he had benefited from being the certain child. The son who looked right. The heir of trust. After the truth, he did not know where to stand. We are still learning how to speak without old roles in the room. Some families heal. Some become honest enough to admit they may not. Both are better than pretending. People asked whether DNA changed how I saw family. Yes, but not in the way they expected. DNA gave us facts. It corrected a lie. It freed my mother from an accusation. It found Maya. It exposed a hospital. But DNA did not tell me who loved me. DNA did not sit beside me when my father ignored my birthdays. DNA did not help me fill out financial aid forms. DNA did not decide who walked me down the aisle. DNA did not make Graham worthy of Maya. Blood can identify. It cannot absolve. It cannot parent. It cannot turn cruelty into concern retroactively. For years, my father treated biology as the highest form of truth. Then biology arrived and condemned him. That is the irony he will never forgive. If you have ever grown up as the question mark in your own family, listen to me. You were not responsible for the fears adults projected onto you. You were not born to prove someone else innocent. You were not required to earn tenderness through resemblance. A parent who needs certainty before kindness was never giving love freely. And if truth comes late, you are allowed to feel everything. Relief, rage, grief, jealousy, love, confusion. You are allowed to choose who walks beside you now, even if they failed before. You are allowed to refuse someone who claims blood after proving they do not understand family. The truth may explain the wound. It does not automatically heal it. Healing is what happens afterward, when people decide whether to protect you or protect the old story. My name is Audrey Whitlock. For 29 years, my father believed I was proof of my mother's betrayal. 3 weeks before my wedding, he demanded a DNA test before agreeing to walk me down the aisle. The test did not prove what he wanted. It proved he had been wrong in a way none of us imagined. I was not his biological daughter. I was not my mother's biological daughter either. I had been switched at birth during a hospital power outage. The woman he accused was innocent. The daughter he doubted had been his daughter in every way that should have mattered. And the daughter who shared his blood wanted nothing from him once she saw the kind of father he had chosen to be. In the end, DNA did not destroy my family. Suspicion did. Silence did. A hospital's cowardice did. But truth gave us the chance to build something different. Not perfect. Not simple. Honest. And honest was more than my father had given us for 29 years.